We are joined today by Mr. Dulat, former chief of R&AW, and we are going to talk about a lot of things, including India, Pakistan, Kashmir, intelligence, and a lot more. First of all, there are a lot of parallels when it comes to Vajpayee years and Modi years, when it comes to India-Pakistan relationship. You served under Mr. Vajpayee, and you have been observing the situation very closely. What do you have to say to it?
Well, there's actually a world of difference between the two. In their own way, I'm sure both are great leaders, but maybe I'm a little partial because I served or I saw Mr. Vajpayee closely for 5.5 years. He was a huge, huge person. I take him to be one of our greatest prime ministers, I think second only to Nehru. I think it's a pity that time ran out on him. 2004, actually, he didn't expect to lose that election. And I think also the period when we look back between Agra and the summit in Islamabad, again, 3 years were wasted.
Why would you say 3 years were wasted?
Because, Agra ended up on a negative sort of this thing. It didn't end up the way I think Vajpayee expected it to end.
And does it not vindicate then Modi's stand today that no matter what we do, how hard we try to get Pakistan to be friends with us or be friendly with us, it is always going to fail. So we have to act the way we acted.
Modi ji is right. He will act the way he acted, and Vajpayee acted the way he acts. So Vajpayee never gave up. Mr. Modi won the 2014 election. There was a lot of hope, a lot of expectation in Pakistan and much more in Kashmir. Actually, the Kashmiris thought that here was another BJP leader who will follow the Vajpayee way. And Vajpayee has been the most revered of leaders in Kashmir.
Where did Modi go wrong in Kashmir?
It's a way of thinking. And Vajpayee's thinking was, I would say twofold, two parallel things. That one is that we had to end this permanent confrontation with Pakistan, and that's why he took that bus to Lahore. And the second was that in Kashmir we needed to move forward. I think Modi ji never felt any such compulsion.
But he also tried soft diplomacy, getting Nawaz Sharif to India and dropping by in Pakistan unannounced.
He did. But it was not consistent enough. It didn't continue. Like Vajpayee never gave up.
One of your interviews, you said that Modi is milking the situation.
You see, the feeling is that, this whole thing was a gift, in a sense, from the Jaish to Modi ji prior to the election. The timing was such. Milking the system in the sense that in the context of elections, I think the whole thing has been politicized too much. My view always has been that when it comes to national security, we should not politicize matters.
But sir, when it comes to Pakistan, despite all the noise that we are making about it, Pakistan is still saying that nothing has happened, only some trees have got damaged.
Well, that's the Pakistan way of saying who knows what happened. But I think enough happened.
But do you think with this, we have actually gone a notch higher on the escalation ladder, that this is a point of no return. So if something like this happens again, we have to do at least this much?
I don't think so. People will argue this way, that every time is a new time, is a fresh time. It depends on the circumstances. It also depends on who's in power, when it happens. So it's not just because you've done this that you'll have to do more than this.
There have been a lot of speculation as to how it was a complete intelligence failure, that an attack of such magnitude could be carried out.
When these things happen, you can always say that there is an intelligence failure. 9/11 would not have happened but for an intelligence failure. So, from what one hears, there was intelligence, but intelligence was not good enough, or not specific enough.
Another thing I want to ask you is about our intelligence apparatus, about our infrastructure. How, we've been hearing how it has been allowed to get rusty. And do you feel that enough has been done to sort of get the agencies up on their feet once again?
I don't believe that our agencies are rusted. I could argue anywhere, anytime that our agencies are as good as any in the world. We always compare ourselves with the Pakistanis. And we refer to the ISI as a deep state and a state within a state. Yeah, sure, they have more autonomy than we have. But I think professionally we are better than them, and it's been conceded by their own officers.
And how about inflicting similar costs on Pakistan, paying them back in the same coin?
These are then political questions come in at that because, as I said, our agencies are not that autonomous. So it's not just the agency. This is something that politicians would also need to answer.
Right. Also, now coming back to Kashmir, you have said, how Kashmiris also were hopeful when Modi came into power.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And
The Mir Wise himself is on record. He welcomed Modi ji, and he said, "We hope that you take forward the Vajpayee path."
But sir, when it comes to these two strands, one is that of separatism and the other of assimilation. It just seems that there is absolutely no sync between the two anymore. Everything has become really rigid now.
Yeah, that's because we made so much hoo-ha about separatism. After all, what are we trying to do in Kashmir? Even if we go back to 1947, my belief is, I may be wrong, but I watched it now for 30 years. What we have been trying to do is to mainstream Kashmir, and we have been successful to a great extent. And in that mainstreaming, you have to deal with the separatists. Only then will they be mainstream. In 2002, some of the separatists participated in the election. And in 2004, our deputy prime minister held two rounds of talks with the separatists. Even the prime minister met the separatists. So that was the way to move forward. Now, if you stop talking and if you put them all in jail, then how can you move forward?
But sir, how do we deal with an organization like JKLF and Yasin
We've been
Malik?
dealing with them. We've been dealing with them for so many years. We've been dealing with all of them for so many years. And I
Do we
think
turn a blind eye towards the acts of violence, acts of terror?
these fellows now, for instance, you talk about Yasin Malik. Yasin has been a terrorist in his initial days, in his younger days. And that's why he's called the romantic of the movement. But he's not involved in terror anymore. The Mirwais has never been involved in terror. And all what we call the moderate Hurriyat have not been involved in terror themselves. But they have been supported from in the initial years by the terrorist organizers. So that's where the link is. But since then, a lot had changed. Yeah. So talking is the way forward.
Right.
Engagement is the way forward. Now what we've done is we've jailed everybody. So who is left out? There's only Dr. Farooq Abdullah, Omar Abdullah, Mehbooba, and the Congress.
And they're also not very happy.
No, they're not happy because every now and then it's implied that they are Pakistanis or anti-national. So it's a very sad state of affairs in Kashmir. And I've been on record before, and I don't mind saying again that this muscular policy has not worked. It will not work. It has not worked anywhere.
How is BJP going to fare in Kashmir in the current climate?
No, the BJP, I don't think is going to do very much in Kashmir. It didn't do very much last time, but in Jammu, it got a lot of seats. It got 25 seats last time. I think they'll have to struggle to get 25 again. Because what has happened as a result of the PDP BJP alliance, that both have lost out separately. Now, after what happened, this Balakot has revived some of their this thing in Jammu, but otherwise people were getting angry with the BJP.
So the milking has worked to an
The
extent.
milking, yeah, it's well in Delhi. People say that the BJP will gain 40-50 seats in the general election. Thanks
Thank
a
you
lot.
so much.
Thanks
I
a
hope
lot.
you enjoyed speaking to us.
Of course I did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.